Hey fellow duelists, it's RagingRaidRaptor here, coming at you today with my belated thoughts on the newest TCG ban list. Since this is the only ban list where I feel very strongly compelled to discuss the changes since starting the channel, and my personal favourite ban list we've received since September 2015. However, I do want to immediately clarify that I will not be discussing every single card that was adjusted in this list, as I primarily want to focus on the ones that I am personally interested in. So without further ado, let's get started. To address the biggest elephant in the room, that being the hits to zoos, dinosaurs, true Dracos and Danglong First of the Yangzing, my opinions on these cards can be summed up like this.
I'm done. You, fuck off out of here.
Me.
Get out.
Inspirational Gordon Ramsay quotes aside, I genuinely want our format to mirror that of the current OCG one, with Spirals currently being the best deck over there, so that we can have Link monsters become the meta, and any hits that brings us closer to that is a massive benefit in my opinion. Moving over to one of the more decisive hits on this list, I will now discuss the banning of Daigusto Emerald. This is a bizarre choice for me, as although it was highly problematic in Zoo, with it recycling Zoo monsters to extend their combos, I cannot fathom the logic behind this choice given that Zoo were recently hit as badly as they were. I have heard that this card can be a combo enabler for ridiculous combos with Fireball Dragon, but I do not know if they are consistent enough to warrant this card getting banned, nor can I see Xyz monsters being used that much when Link summoning becomes the norm, as World Chalice, Goki and Spirals all have monsters of different levels, and I imagine this will be a trend for most Link archetypes moving forwards. In my opinion, this hit was completely unwarranted, since all it did was keep Zoo in check, even though they will probably not see much competitive play with the other hits to this deck. Also, the fact I was using it in a Yosenju deck I was testing to recycle the Yosenju and Kaiju monsters might make my opinion somewhat biased towards this card. Moving over to the limited section, I want to discuss the limitation of both Dark Hole and Interrupted Kaiju Slumber together, as I think this could represent a sign of where Konami may want to take the game in the future. For those of you that may not understand what the game was like when Dark Hole was put at 2, this was when Shaddolls, Satellarknights, Burning Abyss and Cliffforts were the meta, and we had Raigeki put to 1 on the prior list. Shaddolls and Burning Abyss had card effects that enabled them to float by regaining card advantage by either putting resources back into the hand or field, while Cliffforts and Satellarknights could easily re-establish their boards through the Pendulum Summon and using Call of the Haunted, meaning that players that overextended were not going to lose as easily compared to if they were overextended their plays in a deck like Gear during Hat format. This meant that these cards would mainly be used to try to OTK your opponent. This meta trend would carry over into other meta decks, such as Cosmo, Monarchs and ABC, which has only stopped with the introduction of Zodiac Beast being the best deck of this year. However, with the limitation of both Dark Hole and Slumber, this could foreshadow that floating may be non-existent, heavily reduced or made harder to do, such as World Chalice needing the World Legacy Discovery field spell to special summon destroy World Chalice monsters, and the Link monsters only being useful during your turn to special summon the normal monsters from your hand to extend your combos, and not to replace important resources such as the Shaddoll Fusion monsters being able to put a Shaddoll Fusion card back into your hand when they are sent to the graveyard, or being able to special summon Cosmo Dark Lady when Cosmo Dark Destroyer is destroyed. While on the topic of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, I think its limitation could signify that Konami plans to release more Link monsters in a similar vein to Rainbow Reveille Arc Cell and the newly revealed Jack Knight of World Scars, where they are focused on having control based effects to slow down your opponent. Considering that these cards are Link free, they are going to be difficult to summon in a fast format. And having all that effort go to waste with one kaiju would be extremely devastating. Although none of the kaiju monsters have been hit, the limitation of slumber will make the consistency of losing your opponent's boss monster massively reduced, since the deck binning of 2 cards and the search effect will be less of an occurrence. However, you can still play copies of Foolish Burial Goods to compensate if you are really that inclined. Moving over to the semi-limited section, I want to discuss both Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning and Preparation of Rites. Both these cards to me represent a more noticeable shift towards main deck monster orientated decks and link based decks being the meta, since Chaos decks now have both the increased probability of drawing BLS and even the possibility of being able to summon 2 of them in a duel, and could represent the possibility of more Chaos decks in the future. Preparation of Rites was an extremely logical choice to have at 2, for promoting the Vendread archetype released in Code of the Duelist, but could also hint that we could see more ritual archetypes in the future, or even the gradual return of Necros in future ban lists. Moving over to the newly limited section, I want to discuss the return of Rescue Rabbit at 3. It was originally limited for being a cost-efficient way to summon either Evil Saurus Doka or Lagia during the Dino Rabbit format, as it can special summon 2 or 4 lower normal monsters from your deck, which were mainly Sabersaurus during Dino Rabbit. Although this combo is as consistent to achieve as it used to be for dinosaurs, I strongly believe that this was used to incentivize players to pick up the World Chalice archetype, as a majority of the deck's main deck monsters are normal, and the ability to summon 2 of them from the deck and enable lots of link spam with 1 card may entice people to give it a try. It could also foreshadow the possibility of more archetypes being comprised predominantly of normal monsters. Although I have spoken about the cards that did see changes on the ban list, I would like to discuss cards that I'm surprised did not move at all. Starting with a card very dear to me, Solemn Strike. I'm surprised this card was not hit in any capacity whatsoever. As we get closer to Link monsters eventually becoming the meta, I think this card may get hit, since Dimensional Barrier does not work on Links, and also because Konami has been known to hit other cards that most players are using to encourage them to use other cards, since Solemn Strike negates the summon of the Link monsters, which are inherent special summons, meaning that if they wanted to summon them back with the effect of Soul Charge, they will not be able to, since the Link monster was not summoned correctly. Moving over to a spell card, I'm surprised that Terraforming is still at 3, especially when you consider that Metaverse is due to come out in Circuit Break, and Konami's record for using the ban list to promote new products. I think this card could be an issue considering how predominant field spells were during the Arc V era and look to be in the future. And the concept of having a maximum of 6 search cards is a frightening prospect to me, regardless of how necessary having 6 searches might be. In my opinion, I think this card should either be at 2 or 3 to give both players an equal chance of drawing it, without giving the player who draws it first an unfair advantage over the other player who may draw a copy of Metaverse instead, since the player who draws Terraforming will have a massive advantage by being able to search a copy of Dragonic Diagram, then use its effect on the same turn going first, opposed to your opponent who draws Metaverse and then has to set it to search the field spell on your opponent's turn, to which they will not be able to use the effect of Dragonic Diagram until their turn, which at that point will probably be at such a disadvantage to where they will not be able to recover. Which is why I personally think that if this card does get hit, it should go to 2 or be banned altogether. Moving from a card that should get hit to a card that I think can come back, I would like to discuss Genex Ally Bourbon. I don't understand the reason why this card was limited, since I was not playing the game when it was. However, I do not see what harm this card coming to semi-limited status could possibly do, especially when you consider that other powerful cards from the 5Ds era, such as TG Hyper Liberian and Bryonic went from limited to semi-limited, along with Debris Dragon and Summoner Monk going to unlimited status. Also, I mainly want this card to go up for my Deskbot deck, since it makes summoning synchros and reusing Deskbots 3 and 4 much more efficient. Moving from a tuner that is on the ban list, I would like to converse about one that is not on the ban list at all, and that is Blackwing, Gofu the Vague Shadow. Although I do not think this card should be hit, as it is predicted that decks such as Blue Eyes, True King and ABC are going to be the meta for this format, which do not desperately need link summoning as much as road decks do, since Gofu can create 2 tokens in order to summon Proxy Dragon and then go into a copy of Decode Talker. However, I would have thought they might have limited this card like they did in the OCG as damage control, although I do think the limitation of this card will be inettable once link summoning becomes the norm. The last card I want to discuss is my cherished Psyframe Lord Omega. Like Gofu, I thought this card was going to be limited like it was in the OCG to counter the fact it was made even more powerful by the new Master Rules, since it can move itself out of your extra monster zone and take a card out of your opponent's hand, then put itself back into the regular monster zone. However, after watching Blagaga's video regarding his thoughts on the ban list, Omega's absence from the list actually makes a lot of logical sense. He pointed out the reason why Omega probably wasn't hit was probably to allure players into playing the new Vendread archetype, a zombie ritual deck which would greatly benefit from Omega's effect of putting banished cards back into the graveyard. Whether Omega will become a problem card in future formats is left to be unseen, but I thought Konami would have wanted to address this card as damage control as soon as possible to promote more Link monsters. Well, those were my thoughts on the September 2017 ban list. Do you agree with me on these changes, or do you disagree with all of them entirely? Let me know in the comment section below. If you did enjoy the video, why not give it a like or share it with your friends? It would be greatly appreciated and would help the growth of the channel as a whole. I've been RagingRaidRaptor and I'll see you all again next time.